Good morning, good afternoon, or good evening, depending on where you are in the world. And thank you so much for taking the time to join us today for our 10th annual Eyes on a Cure, CureOM Patient and Caregiver Mini Symposium. We are so thrilled to have you and hope you find amazing value for the information that we're going to share with you over the next 2 days. My name is Kyleigh LiPira, CEO of the Melanoma Research Foundation, and I'm thrilled to welcome you and share a little bit more about the MRF and the CureOM initiative, which is our program dedicated to ocular melanoma. So we'll just take a minute, and I want to give a big thank you to our sponsors. We have a wonderful group of industry partners who have sponsored the entire MRF's education programming, but there's 3 companies in particular that have sponsored this particular meeting, and I want to say a big thank you to them. That's Castle Biosciences, Immunocore, and Trisalis Life Sciences. And Castle will be hosting a breakout room during our break today, and we'll share a little bit more information about that later. So to kick off, I want to share a little bit about where the MRF started, which was by a patient 25 years ago, a young woman by the name of Diana Ashby. And at the time, there were very few treatment options available. And during her 3rd recurrence of melanoma, she really realized that the only person who could change outcomes for melanoma patients are people like her, to advocate and educate the community and get together and raise funds for more research. So that's exactly what Diana did. Our mission, much like with Diana's founding, has stayed really pretty true. We're a patient-centric organization, and we have a tripartite mission, which is to fund research, to educate patients and caregivers, and to advocate on behalf of the melanoma community. So I'm going to share a little bit about our 3 pillar areas of our mission to give you a broader understanding of who the MRF is and specifically how the CureOM initiative fits into the overall mission of the Melanoma Research Foundation. So to start with, and very similar to our founding, we're focused on research. So to date, we funded about $20.4 million in research grants. These are to academic institutions all over the United States, focused on really breakthrough research that'll make a difference in the lives of patients. We also focus on scientific initiatives. In fact, just last week, we hosted our 3rd Brain Metastases Summit to bring together leaders in the field to deal with this very complex issue, especially for melanoma patients. We also focus on rare subtypes, which is why you are all joining us here today. We have a robust program on ocular melanoma. We also focus on pediatric melanoma, acral melanoma, and mucosal melanoma. And we host scientific meetings. One of the unique programs that the MRF has underneath its research umbrella is the Breakthrough Consortium. And this is a wonderful collaboration between academic institutions all over the country that was founded in 2010. Today, we have over 20 centers of excellence all working together on research projects that'll lead to the next breakthrough. Our second part of our mission is education. And that's, again, why you're all here today, to learn about the things that are happening in ocular melanoma related to research, patient care, support. And that's really a huge part of what we do. We have educational materials that are available at no cost to anyone who orders them. We ship hundreds of thousands of pieces out every single year. We have an absolutely robust library of content on our website that ranges from webinars that are pre-recorded on specific topics, to live webinars, to animated melanoma patient videos that take very complex medical topics and distill them down to 2 to 3 minute animations, as well as other resources. And that is a constantly evolving library of information that's available to our community. The 3rd piece, I should say, is advocacy. And as an advocacy organization, we really rally around some core topics. And later you'll hear from Cassie Beisel, our Senior Advocacy Officer, who will tell you about the advocacy initiatives that are related to rare subtypes. But right now, I'm just going to touch on a very high level overview of advocacy. And there's really 4 main areas that we focus on. So there's research, and that's advocating for research on the federal level through the Department of Defense, NCI, and NIH. Then there's also our prevention work. And this is really centered around preventing melanoma. We do a lot with tanning bed bans, a lot with state level work to get sunscreen allowed in schools. And then we also work on the access issue. And this is something that, again, Cassie will touch on later, but access to clinical trials, access to drugs, access to reimbursement is a really key component. And the last is education. So educating our advocates on these issues so that they can speak to industry, they can go back and speak on a panel at the FDA, or again, to their local community leaders on the issues that are impacting the melanoma community. There you see a picture of us. That's actually with a group of ocular melanoma advocates that we took to the FDA in February of 2019 to talk about some of the issues that ocular melanoma patients are facing and to get the FDA to really open up access to new drug approvals. So now I want to pivot a little bit, now that you know more about the Melanoma Research Foundation, and talk about the CureOM initiative, which was founded in 2010 by a patient, much like the MRF, by the name of Greg Strax. And when Greg was diagnosed, again, there were very few options available, but he and his wife, the co-founder of the CureOM initiative, Dr. Sarah Seelig, were so passionate that they really advocated for more research in this pivotal area. And again, seeing the bigger needs of the ocular melanoma community, knew that it wasn't just research that was going to move the needle, but it was educating and empowering patients and supporting them along their journey. So again, like I mentioned, the CureOM initiative came under the MRF in 2011. It is known, many people are like, what does CureOM stand for? Well, it's the Community United for Research and Education for Ocular Melanoma. And again, it's a very patient-centered program. The one thing about CureOM, though, that is different that people should know is that this program is global. We have partnerships with researchers and clinicians all over the globe, in fact, and that is something that's really powerful, especially for a rare disease. So I'm going to, again, sort of touch on some of the areas that are specific to CureOM. Like I mentioned, it mirrors the image of the MRF in terms of our mission. Patient education and support is paramount. These patient and caregiver meetings happen yearly. Unfortunately, they have been virtual, but we look forward to 2022, and we'll share more about that meeting later. We host online webinars. All of these are recorded and available on demand on the MRF website, which is melanoma.org. We have educational materials, videos, support services. We facilitated meet and greets in cities all over the United States for patients to connect with each other. We host virtual support groups. We have a patient forum for more peer-to-peer interaction, and we constantly are doing community engagement with our events. So just to give you a little idea, especially for those of you who are really just joining us for the first time, this is our 10th event. We started hosting these in June 2012, and over the years it has evolved. Of course, this year we hosted 2 mini summits because there was really so much going on in ocular melanoma right now. We wanted to provide the community with as much information as possible. I am very thrilled to share that we will be back in person in Tampa at Moffitt Cancer Center, April 1st through 3rd in 2022. So please mark your calendars and make sure that you save the date. More information will be coming on that. We really look forward to having you join us there. So again, you can see next year we will be back in person. This will be an event that is also available virtually. So for people who do not feel comfortable traveling or are unable to travel, you will still be able to access all the content from that meeting virtually as well. I think hybrid is the new way that the world is going. So I want to touch a little bit on the resources available. Again, ocular melanoma is different than cutaneous melanoma, and we have made a very concerted effort to develop materials specific to this rare subtype. Our most recent material is the Ocular Melanoma Patient Guide, and I do want to give a big thank you to the patients who helped review this material as well. Everything from sharing that the cover might be too glossy and hard to read for some people, to pictures might be a little too intense and unnerving. So we really value the patient insight when we create these educational materials. And this is a wonderful resource. And again, I would encourage anyone to go onto our website and order some of these. If you have an oncologist that you work with, again, bring the materials to his or her office and share them with them, because it's a really important resource for patients. Another piece of our mission is awareness and support. So we are in the middle of November, which we have coined I Get Dilated Awareness Month, or Ocular Melanoma Awareness Month. And this is our opportunity to really get in front of the community and share with them the importance of early detection. So you can't prevent ocular melanoma, but what you can do is get diagnosed early. So with a yearly dilated eye exam, you can really be able to detect ocular melanoma at an earlier stage, which we truly believe leads to better outcomes. So all of our materials, again, our awareness materials are available at no cost. You can bring these in to your ophthalmologist office. They're really, really impactful, and we have a big presence on social media. So here you can see on the left-hand side this year's campaign. I mentioned earlier our community engagement, and because the Melanoma Research Foundation is a national foundation, we are in communities all across the United States, whether it's a gala, which you see on the top left-hand corner, or a Miles for Melanoma 5K run walk. And we always encourage our ocular melanoma community to get involved. Form a team at a Miles event. Come to the gala. We always recognize a leader in the OM space as well as OM patients. So it's always an opportunity to engage and form relationships and find the support that you need in your own community. So I mentioned earlier that CureOM was founded by a patient, and in a few minutes, you're going to hear from Sarah Stielig, who formed the CureOM initiative with her husband. But being patient-centric is a core of what the MRF believes in. And we believe that patient stories, patients being connected with one another, is so vital to the patient journey. So we are always looking for feedback from our community on ways that we can improve, new resources that are needed, or things that we can do to help the patient community along the way. And a lot of the stories, if you go onto our website, you'll see a lot of OM patient stories this month as we focused on ocular melanoma. Here's an example. One of our board members, Mike Wenzero, is an ocular melanoma survivor. So at all levels of the organization, we really have representation from the ocular melanoma community. I did touch a little bit on research and science earlier, but just to drill down a little bit further and talk about our ocular melanoma research program, to date, we have funded over $2 million in ocular melanoma research. So that has been a huge effort of the MRF to really fund high-level, peer-reviewed, highly scored, competitive research that'll move the needle in ocular melanoma. One of the other scientific initiatives that launched this year is our Vision Registry. And Sarah Stielig and Dr. Richard Carvajal are going to be talking a little bit more about that in a minute. So I'm not going to go into too much detail. But one of the other important things that I think the patient community really needs to know about is our scientific meetings. So these are multidisciplinary meetings that the MRF CureOM initiative convenes every single year around a meeting called the Society for Melanoma Research, which is a global meeting. And when we first started, there were about a handful of people around the table. And every single year this has grown. And this year, virtually, we had over 100 attendees. And these are physicians from different specialties coming together to talk about very specific research issues in the ocular melanoma space. And the 2019 meeting actually resulted in a publication, a white paper about, again, clinical therapeutics in ocular or uveal melanoma. And again, it's really important to bring the community together. For a rare disease, it's critical that people talk to one another. So this meeting has been very instrumental in making sure that that happens. The registry, as I mentioned, Sarah and Rich are going to dive down a little bit deeper, but one thing I want to mention is to give a little bit of insight as to why the MRF decided to invest in something like a registry. And that is really because of patients, because of patient needs. So again, which Sarah will touch on, but this came out of patients who were very frustrated by the lack of information and the lack of research that was happening in terms of the natural history of ocular melanoma. So for those of you who don't know, there have been clusters of ocular melanoma in Huntersville, North Carolina, and in Auburn. Very interesting. And this registry is really going to help unlock some of the mysteries surrounding that. So what we really wanted to do was get patient insight, in terms of this disease. And that is exactly what this registry is doing. It's getting patient reported outcomes from current patients, as well as patients' families who've had loved ones who've lost their battle with ocular melanoma. So again, you'll hear more about vision in a minute. These are just some of the research grants that we funded back in 2019 that are really impressive. And again, you can see the point of this, highlighting this slide in particular, is the continuum. So the MRF funds grants from the medical student level all the way up to senior investigators to team science awards. And that's really critical to fund junior investigators in the field, because that keeps them in the field. And those are the people that are later going to come up with some of the groundbreaking research that's going to change patients' lives. So with that, I want to say a big thank you again for joining us. Thank you to our sponsors. We're so grateful. We appreciate you taking the time to be in front of your computers. We know it's hard and exhausting at this point, but we really believe you're going to get a lot of great information out of the sessions today and tomorrow. So again, a huge thank you for joining us today.